Let's go. It's time. Put on play pants.
Let's go.
Hey, we're doing another podcast.
Hard to believe.
What the heck? Welcome to podcast 84. This is the Play Pants podcast. That's Jason Ginty right there. If you're watching on the YouTube, I'm Rod Ryan. And we were off last week, but so we got a lot of catching up to do. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. I almost feel a little overwhelmed of all the things I want to get to. A couple of emails I want to get to. You said that you had some stuff that you wanted to look at, maybe some comments from our YouTube channel. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just announced who's in, who's out. Okay. I don't know why I let my blood bubble on these things, but it happens. It's National Paranormal Day. I wanted to ask you a question about things that happened in the French Quarter. I know you know a lot about that.
Yeah.
Jazz Fest first weekend. I didn't make it in. I had the sick kid, so we can talk a little bit about what you saw out there for Jazz Fest. And we're going to talk Aerosmith today on the pod. And I don't think we've ever really gotten into Aerosmith much, but the anniversary of, and I've heard people like Slash and some other musicians say that Aerosmith Rocks was the album that kind of was a pivotal point in them going in the direction that they went. Specifically Slash, I know he has mentioned that album, but Aerosmith in 1976, on this day that we're recording, May 3rd, they released Rocks, where you got Back in the Saddle. Last Child was off of that album, 1976. So 47 years. We'll talk Aerosmith and our top 5 Aerosmith songs. Jason, good to see you.
Dude, I'm having chips. Remember last episode, we were talking about chips. So I'm like,
and I called it. You were the Dorito Cool Ranch guy.
well, I don't normally eat chips, right? I thought, why not eat chips during a podcast? Because that's fucking smart. So anyway, Jazz Fest, people coming into town this weekend. Got a lot of people going to be here doing some crawfishing. So the wife went out and started buying chips, and they're never in the house. Well, she just left a couple minutes ago, and I'm like, I'm going to get me some of them chips. I'm going to get me some of them chips.
You got people coming over. It's a license for your house to have junk food in it.
It's so fucking great.
As soon as somebody's come, I want comfort foods for my guests, and you want to have that stuff for them. Even though if you don't get around to it, well, you don't want to throw it away. You got to use it up. So
got to eat that shit. Yeah, no, it's fun when that happens. But I tell you what, you get to a certain age, and man, your guts are wrecked. I'll have 3 chips. I'm like, okay, tapping out because my guts are wrecked. Yeah, dude. Jazz Fest last weekend. That was weekend number 1. It wasn't. It didn't go as planned for a lot of people. Obviously, you had some issues, but I went out Friday, and Lizzo performed on Friday, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck about Lizzo, right? I don't care. But then, like, we wandered around a little bit, and we went over. My wife was, of course, at Lizzo, jumping up and down. And I got there, and dude, I'm telling you, man, again, the way we always talk about good or bad music is, it's not that it's bad music. It's just may not be your style, your type. Lizzo is an incredible performer. She owns the stage. She's unbelievably cool on stage, talking to people and funny as shit, can riff. And I'm like, damn, you know what? Don't like her stuff. Don't like her music, but I felt better afterwards. It was one of those moments.
I feel like she's pretty talented, but I mean, at the end of every song or the beginning of every song, was every song for all the big girls out there?
Bad bitches.
Does every single thing have to be for the big girls? It's for the big girls. I'm a big girl. I want to represent the big girls. And I want you to know that big girls can get up here. And if this is for the big girls, it's like, okay, you're a big girl. Enough already. Everything doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to define you.
Yeah, it was interesting. I had a couple of interesting conversations. It's like, and look, man, we'll talk about it right here because who gives a shit I get it, man. I'm all body positive. Look, I ain't no prize to look at, okay? I go in my pool and people are like, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? You look like you got thrown down a hill or something. So, like, I realize I am not exactly Captain Handsome. You know what I mean? But I feel like there's a pro side to her body image, right? Big girls, cool, man. Ride that train. But then it's like, that ain't healthy. It ain't healthy. It's maybe it's setting a bad thing too. It's a 50-50 split on that deal. And I want to be careful because I don't want to get in trouble or get fucking canceled or anything. But it feels like, yeah, I'm a cool, man. You're a bit overweight. Cool. All good. It's a weird putt.
It just seems like I guess I just catch sound bites of her. I don't, you watched an entire performance. I just assume that every song she does, okay, and this one's going out to the big girls out here, and then we're going to do this song, and then, okay, well, you know what, praise God, and this one's for the big girls, and then here's my next song. It's like, okay, fucking, we get it. It's for the big girls. I just feel like the sound bites, the clips that I see, sometimes I'm a product of my work environment. Listen, my company, iHeart, loves Lizzo. There's shit on the TV all the time. But I got it, man. Okay, you've got the big girls covered. Yep. You know, you didn't hear Adele shouting out to the big girls before every song of hers. It just, when somebody is just one thing, you said it. I agree with you. I think she's super talented. She's got Houston roots, so she's a big deal here. Big girl. It's just, and then okay, she's a big girl. I get it, but I don't need to hear about it nonstop. Just go out and do you, man. Just go out and be you. You don't got to like call out the big girls every time.
I mean, there was that element, but it wasn't every time, and it was cool. Okay. And I tell you what, man, afterwards, I was fired up. It was very positive and uplifting, and she's cool, and she can sing her ass off. And it's one of those things where, had she not sat there and hammered on the big girl thing, and it wasn't every song, but when she did it, that all washed away. I didn't think of her as a big girl after about 2 songs. I just saw a person up there singing and having a great time. And it's like I went to the Moulin Rouge many years ago in Paris, right? And of course, titties, right? It's old school. It's cabaret. It's dancing. It's singing. It's this whole entertainment circus, right? But after like 5 minutes of titties, I didn't even think about it. It was just, the performance was cool. It was fun. It wasn't sensual in that way. It was just a performance. And like the same kind of concept with her. After a couple songs, I was just watching a performer and enjoying the show.
Are they built for speed or built for comfort? You old sailor, you old son of a bitch, you.
Oh man, I mean, I wanted to get old school and start pulling that cord on the top of the old motors. Remember those old ones in those boats? You had to pull the cord about 40, wrap it around. My grandfather had an old school boat like that. Yeah, I wanted a motorboat. I want to do that. So yeah. Anyway, and then Saturday it rained like a biatch.
That's when I was supposed to be there. So everything, my kid wasn't feeling well. I got, I'm talking to my ex, and we're trying to figure this all out. And I canceled my tickets because my kid's not well. She gets out of school early on Friday at the doctor, and then boom, I'm on the phone with the kid, and I'm like, okay, listen. Okay, New Orleans is out, so forget it. Don't worry about it. Let's not even play that. You're not feeling well. You want to stay with, it was my weekend. You want to stay with mom, or you want to come with dad? She goes, I want to come with dad. Don't even think twice about it. That's that weird unconditional love with your kid. Had she said she wanted to stay with mommy, okay, then, okay, I don't get my feelings hurt. She's not feeling well. It's an hour-and-a-half drive. She just wants to stay put, okay? Sometimes little girls want their moms. And I would have been fine, and then boom, I would have come in. So she's like, no, I want to come to your house. I said, okay, boom, get online, cancel the tickets, go pick her up, hour and a half back. And then boom, I'm with a sick kid, but it's your kid. So it's not like, oh, you're bummed out. Of course I wanted to be at Jazz Fest, but you're not bummed out. I mean, it made me feel good that my kid wanted to come see me still. So that was nice, but you're there just helping your sick kid out all weekend. And, it's awesome. But thinking and seeing some of the stuff that was happening on Saturday, even if she wasn't really sick, and if she was just a little bit sick, man, out there in the rain, Saturday was a nasty one, huh? I did want to ask you about Ed Sheeran, though, because, man, we've been talking about him in the news a lot lately as the families. It's not just it's not Marvin Gaye. It's whoever else was involved with writing the song, Let's Get It On. They're going after Ed Sheeran right now for his song. I don't know the name of it, but I'll Be Loving You When I'm 70. And it's the big wedding song. And he's in court every day now. And court wasn't in session over the weekend. So he came into New Orleans and then boom, back into court. Did he talk about it at all? Did he mention it on stage?
He mentioned it very briefly in between songs. He said, yeah, maybe I heard about it. I've been kind of sitting in court for the last week, so it feels good to get standing up and out here. That was it. He just right on truck. Man, I tell you what, I didn't know.
It's cool that he mentioned it.
Yeah, I don't know much about Ed Sheeran, but that's a hell of a performer. That dude, it's him. That's it. It's him. There's no band. It's all him and loops. And I'm like, And he explained it right out of the gate. He played a song and he says, hey, listen, I want you to know what I'm doing up here. And he explained the whole fucking thing. And then he started doing it. And everyone's just going, fuck. And it was like the one time he fucked it up. He's like, oh, shit, I'm on the wrong speed. I fucked it up. So he's sorry. And he just goes back, starts fresh, and starts doing it again. It's like nobody cared. He just owned it, man. And it was, again, not my bag of tricks. Awesome. He was great.
Not my proudest moment telling this story on this podcast, but Ed Sheeran, that's the second time he's played Jazz Fest.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A long time ago he played it.
The first time he played Jazz Fest, and I talked about this because your daughter was there and I'm my goddaughter and we're hanging out. And she's like, come on, Uncle Raji, let's go. You know, she wanted to go see Ed Sheeran. And I'm like, who the fuck is Ed Sheeran? And I'm like, I don't know. Who is this guy? Nobody gives a shit about Ed Sheeran. Because he was playing on like the Gentilly stage. And I said, and I told your daughter, and I said, listen, all the MILFs are going to be over at Bon Jovi. I got to go watch Bon Jovi, okay? I'm telling this to your daughter, my goddaughter. I'm telling her the MILFs are going to be on the other side of the track. I need to be over here in this number. Right. So that's when we kind of split up. So she went to go see Ed Sheeran, and I went to go see, and I went to go hang out with all the MILFs, which there were. I was right. I was spot on. There was just a million MILFs at a Bon Jovi show. Well, but that was the first time that he had played. And that was I told that story. And I texted your daughter within the last couple of weeks. And I just, hadn't talked to you, just checking in, miss you. And then she goes, yeah, we'll catch up soon. I listen to the podcast. I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like, shit. I'm like, that's not cool. I don't think you need to hear all this.
Yeah, it gets weird then, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's one thing you got to keep in mind too, is like what's great about these podcasts is that, well, not much, obviously, but like your daughter could go back and listen to all this shit someday. It's archived. Yeah, no, it's archived. She's gonna be like, my God, my dad and my uncle were dipshits.
No, as soon as she gets of age, I got everything set up, one button, boom, it's just the cleaner switch. Boom, it just wipes out every dumb thing I've ever said on the internet.
Self-destruct button for the whole thing, man. That's actually not a bad idea.
So I'm kind of open-ended. I mean, there's an outside chance. There's still some flights available. My kid's not 100%. I do have her again this weekend. So we'll see what happens. I wanted to share with you an email, and not because of specifically what I wrote, but I kind of wanted to get your take a little bit. This happens to me all the time. Amber is going to New Orleans.
Okay.
She says, good evening, Rod. Husband and I are venturing to New Orleans this weekend, the North Mississippi All-Stars, and then 2 nights of Better Than Ezra.
Yep.
Since that's your stomping grounds, what are a few of your musts when you go back? Thanks for your suggestions, and I hope you're having a great week. So that's Amber and her dude. They're going into New Orleans. So, I mean, I get these emails all the time. So I said, all right, here are my must-have drinks, Amber. I said, you got to go to the Napoleon House and get a Pim's Cup.
Yep.
You got to go to Molly's on the Market and get a frozen iced coffee. Lafitte's Blacksmith Shop. You got to get the Purple Voodoo, and I put in parentheses, very strong. I said, party after dark. The Gold Mine is one of my favorite places. Tell owner David Brinks I said hello. Do a flaming Dr. Pepper shot. And then the late night, the Dungeon is my favorite bar on Toulouse Street, just off of Bourbon. Next thing I write, take the pirate tour. My friends own it. piratesofthequarter.com, at Pirates of the Quarter on IG and Facebook. Then I wrote, if you go past the quarter, down past the French Market, it's a bit of a walk, but it's manageable. There's a whole nother world called Frenchman Street. You'll be amongst locals. You'll hear really amazing music till the wee hours of the night. Everyone I have sent there has been amazed and have had no idea that this area even existed in New Orleans. Most people just hit Bourbon Street. And I sent her a link to Frenchman Street. So as a guy that lives there and basically roams around the quarter every day, did I miss anything as far as, I mean, you could go on and on and on for hours, about stuff to see and stuff to do. What would you tell her?
I would say those are all great.
Did I miss anything?
No, I mean, you know what? By going to those places, you're going to stop at places in between. and
Yeah.
discover your own shit on your own. You know,
By the time you get to Frenchman Street, before you get to Frenchman Street, oh, well, there's Rod just mentioned there's, you know,
Lafitte's,
the French market or whatever, you know, things. So, yeah, I get that all the time. People wanting to hit some, you know, hey, they want to hear from somebody that's been there. You know, what are your favorite places to go to?
Right. It's tough because you don't know how many times they've been there. You know, if it's the first time, you just tell them the basic, the must do's out of the gate. You know, you got to go to Jackson Square. You got to get a beignet. You got to go up by the river. You take a paddle boat ride. You know, go to Lafitte's, all the places you mentioned. Yeah, that's your first time. Second time, then you start digging in a little bit more. And then you do the Frenchman Streets, and then you want to dig in a third time. You go over to the Bywater where it gets. That's like, you know. Bourbon Street is your candy bar. You know, it's easy. It's all cover songs mostly, and it's Bourbon Street. And then you go to the Frenchman Street, and it's brass bands and Latin and shit. Then you go down to then you go over to the Bywater, and that's just a whole nother level of different bizarro. You know, the Saturn Bar and the Hi Ho Lounge and all these little dirty dives and stuff, and that's just a whole nother animal.
And then uptown is a whole nother animal too, you know, so you head up St. Charles. So there's other areas, but you're right. If somebody's just kind of going in for a weekend though, I feel like for me, I'm pretty good on my feet. I want to walk everywhere, and everything that I said, even getting down to Frenchman Street. And this is for anybody that's listening, that's thinking about going to New Orleans. Frenchman Street, every time I've taken somebody there, they just go, what the fuck? What is this? It's kind of like another Bourbon Street. The big difference is that you got to pay a cover everywhere you go. On Bourbon Street, everywhere is free. They want you to come in and drink specials. And there's, like you said, cover bands, karaoke, that type of shit. If you want to go see like real bands, great jazz and horn sections and things like that, you are going to have to pay a cover. And then you get your craft beers and stuff. And it's going to be a lot of locals. There's still a ton of out of town people there, but I remember, you know, that's kind of come around in the last 20 years or so, and everybody is blown away, and it's still within walking. For me, that's walking distance. I still like to walk that.
And that's the best part about like Fat Tuesday and Mardi Gras Day. That's where we end up, because that's where the chaos really is. I mean, Bourbon Street.
You go to Frenchman Street now?
Yeah, that's where like the weird avant-garde parades start, and the little drum parties. Like everyone with a drum shows up. There's one parade, everyone's got a fucking drum, either a bass drum or a snare, and it's just everyone banging on shit. And it's just the most coolest area down there for Mardi Gras, and that's a locals thing. And then they parade right into the quarter, then it all falls apart. But yeah, Fat Tuesday about 8 o'clock in the morning. 9 o'clock in the morning down in the Marigny, that's the spot, dude. Yeah, that's where you want to go. So, I mean, yes, there's a million things, but look, email us, man. We'll tell you where to go, but you basically covered it. You know, I always tell people all the time, what else should we do? If it looks cool, it probably is. That's usually what I tell people. You know,
I should have mentioned Drago's.
Drago's is great.
Drago's is the other place that I send everybody.
Oyster House for the oysters. Yeah, all that good shit, dude. It's all fucking great.
To be honest with you, I tell people to skip Acme because that fucking line is ridiculous.
Yeah.
The line is just way too out of hand. And for me, it's still a walk. It's still within a walk. I know sometimes, I mean, chicks, if you're wearing ass jackers, you're not going to be able to walk to Frenchman Street. You're not going to be able to walk to the Hilton where Drago's is. But for me, I can walk that. I want to move. I want to be on my feet the whole time. You can walk, but Drago's is where you want to go and get the oysters. So I'm going to add that onto that email really quick. So obviously I told her, you know, to take the pirate tour.
Yeah.
This is what I wanted to run by you today. It's National Paranormal Day. Mm-hmm. So I don't know the exact definition of paranormal, but we talked about it briefly on the air because I know Tessa's into all this shit and dream catchers and saging rooms and bullshit. Okay. I'm coming around a little bit on the UFO stuff. Well, I'm coming around a little bit. I do feel like there are some things out there. I'm okay with calling something a UFO, an unidentified flying object. Is it a little fucking green man in there driving around? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm coming around though. Maybe it's the guys in Blink-182. They got me.
Yep.
But when it comes to the ghost stuff, okay, and when it comes to people taking pictures and they use a flash and it catches a piece of dust, and people try calling that orbs and those are spirits and all of that stuff. New Orleans is a great place for those types of stories. And as a guy that owns piratesofthequarter.com, Jason's he's a history guy. He's a history buff. And that's what kind of led him and his brother into this. And I've taken both types of tours. I promise I'm going somewhere with this. You come at it in a fun way, but you're actually giving history. You're giving things that really happened. You know, you hear me do the commercial all the time, and these are the ways that, you know, the things that formed New Orleans and the reason why New Orleans is the way that it is. And, you know, you do talk about Lafitte's blacksmith shop. Well, you know, I don't think those guys fucking live there, but the ghost tours, there's these fantastic stories that are told. And I know that people for years, because your tour is relatively new in the quarter. So with today being National Paranormal Day, a lot of people will go to New Orleans and they say, I want to take a ghost tour, you know? How do you approach that? Because they're telling stories, and I'm sure from what I've gathered, and then knowing you for as long as I have, they grab a little piece of history. There may have been a party. There may have been somebody that was being tortured up in an attic somewhere, but, you know, blood spilling and bodies spilling out of doorways and down the street, and in the nunnery, there's apparently a bunch of coffins up there, and they blessed the screws and they screwed the door shut, and there's vampires up. They take a little bit of history and they kind of like tack on these huge stories. So where are you at with the ghost stories and the paranormal? Because you live in one of the most haunted cities in America, so I'm told.
Well, that's the fun part of it, you know. And people will ask occasionally on the tour, they're like, "Hey, you see any ghosts?" And I go, and here's my answer I give every time that question is asked of me: have you seen any ghosts? I said, I'm a grown ass man. No, grow up. That's my answer. No, because there aren't any. I've been in the French Quarter 26 years now. I've been drunk out of my skull. I've been stone cold sober. I've been in almost every fucking building in the French Quarter. You know what I've seen? Nothing. Not a goddamn thing, dude. There's no fucking ghosts, you know? Oh, but dude, and I'll get it, and we're going to get hammered today probably in the comment section, which is cool, man. I you know, tell me your little story about how you saw a ghost, or you were in a hotel in the French Quarter, and when you left or you went to bed, the drawer was closed, and in the morning it was opened. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good one. That's one of my favorite ones. But you realize these buildings in the French Quarter are old as fuck, and there's not a straight, you got a place. Is there a floor that's straight? There isn't. No. Everything is at an angle. Shit opens. Sorry. There's always going to be an explanation. There's no goddamn ghosts in the French Quarter. They tell stories about vampires. And I'm like, where the fuck are they now? Where are they? Because I ain't seen none yet.
They were around all, I mean, you know, Interview with a Vampire and Brad Pitt.
Storytelling. It's storytelling.
You know, Anne Rice, she lived in New Orleans. I mean, the stories that she wrote, you know, New Orleans was the backdrop of these great stories and stuff.
And it's great. I love all that shit. I love Anne Rice. I love Interview with a Vampire. The series that was just on AMC. I love that too, man. But again, I go back to, I'm a grown ass man. You know what? You get it in your head. You start thinking about stuff. Then you start thinking you're seeing shit. And then you're drinking. And of course you're going to see shit. My favorite one is when people hold their phones. Dude, look, there's a dude back there. I go, do you fucking know anything about light and dark in photography? Come on.
Your tour is very different.
It is absolutely
from ghost tours. And like I said, yours is relatively new. Ghost tours, they probably have been doing them for 40 years in New Orleans, right?
Oh, totally. And those guys, look, you believe in ghosts? Great. I'm all for it. Go for it. Take the ghost tours, because a lot of those guys do a really fantastic job. They look the part. They act the part. There's a lot of really good ones, and God love them, man. And they're great dudes. But I don't buy any of that horse shit.
Do they run any kind of a disclaimer? I know I don't remember. I've taken a ghost tour before. It's been 20 years. Do they run a disclaimer? Or do they just go right into it and say, what you're about to hear, this is it, man. This is what fucking happened. There's you know, Dracula's right up there in that window.
Well, what they do is they tell you is what it really is. A lot of times is they're going to tell you a story of a murder. Somebody got fucking killed at a party, like you mentioned, right? Someone hung themselves on a balcony. Those things are all probably true because that shit happens all the time anywhere, right? Well, then of course, then they twist it into, well, people that stay there have seen the little girl walking down the hall, and it's like, okay, that guy was fucked up on shrooms. It's like, no, you didn't see the little girl because the little girl's dead. That's not how this works. You know what I mean? And then I always explain it this way. Well, because you talked about Lafitte's Blacksmith Shop, right? That's at fucking the best bar in the quarter, as far as I'm concerned. Especially day drinking. You get in there, you get a table, sit down, chill out, drink some of those purple drinks. It's fucking awesome.
Don't say some of those purple drinks. Drink one purple drink and you're fucked.
Depends on how much of a day you're gonna have.
Don't drink more than one purple drink. But I told her, the purple voodoo, it's very strong.
Go ahead.
It's a great bar. You're right.
It's one of my favorite bars to chill out in because it's just got that look. It's built in the 1770s. It's old as fuck and it's awesome. But then it's like, the ghost of this, ghost of that. I'm like, look, I've done plenty of ghost research over the years. And the research is this. I've seen every episode of Scooby-Doo thousands of times. The end of every episode, what is it? It's an asshole in a mask. It's all the research you need, bro. Yeah. It's what it is.
Okay.
Blow up. And I know we're going to get hammered on the ghost thing, but you know what? Go for it. You want to believe in that shit? Great. Now ghosts and all that horse shit is different than like spirituality. You want to light some incense for grandma or some shit like that, or you're having conversations with a dead relative. That's you having a conversation and you're doing that. That's great. I think that's awesome. If that's how you're dealing with things in your life, I'm all for it. But don't sit there and fucking stand on the street corner and tell me there's a fucking ghost upstairs. Because I'm not going to fucking believe you.
I mean, the absolute best story is there's a convent or a nunnery in the back of the quarter.
Yeah, Ursuline convent, yeah.
And Richard Simmons grew up across the street. So on the tour, they show you these windows up at the very top, and they got the shutters closed. And they tell you that listen, we've all known nuns over the time. I don't know how agile they were back in the day, but apparently there was a ship coming over here. It was bringing vampires. They were in their coffins and everything. And the nuns flew into action. Okay. They were just incredibly fit and nimble. They flew into action. They intercepted the coffins, took them right upstairs, put them in that room up at the top. And the priest blessed the screws and they screwed everything shut. And then apparently because of the separation of church and state, nobody can go up there and these vampires are up there. It's a fantastic story.
It's a fantastic story.
And it's one that I tell if I'm walking with somebody and I come across that, it's an awesome story to tell. And it kills every fucking time. I mean, when you're walking with somebody by that covenant, the nunnery, and you tell that story, they remember that for the rest of their lives. But is it true?
It's Anne Rice's story.
You know what I mean? Like, it's probably not true, but it's just such an awesome story. So these ghost tours do that.
Yeah, and it's okay. I'm not shitting on them. They do a great job at that. That's storytelling. You're having drinks and you're getting scared. Who doesn't love going to haunted houses and all that shit? It's all it is, right? That story comes from Anne Rice's books. Lestat was buried or in a coffin up there in the convent. It's just been twisted around over the time. You know what I mean? And you ever notice how it's real convenient how, there's a separation of church and state, so you really can't go check. That's convenient storytelling right there. Dude, I've told this story too. I've told people like, man, if you're really into ghosts and shit, here's what you're going to do. Go yank a tooth out tonight. Throw it under your pillow. Wake up tomorrow morning and see what's going on under that pillow. It's the same fucking thing. Sorry, kids who are listening to this.
I'm not. That's very, very soon in my future. Okay. Well, happy National Paranormal Day, everybody. And then
wait. No, they always got those things, those little fucking people. They're the Ghostbusters shoes. There's dudes out there with those things. The little fucking lights up and shit. Oh, I'm feeling it, man. It's cooler right here. The temperature is 2 degrees cooler. I'm like, you're in the fucking French Quarter. It's all brick. Shit's gonna change temperatures, you dipshit. There's the sun.
Are they really walking around with a piece of technology?
There's a couple dorks out there doing that, and that's when you've lost me. You want to tell great stories? That's awesome because the art of storytelling is a skill. But don't be fucking.
Oh, we got one. We got one. Oh, did you feel that? It just got cold.
Like, I just want to hit him with my fucking sword.
Do you? So I imagine there's a time when you're bringing a tour, your pirate group, you're passing, you're crossing over ghost tour people, right?
Yeah. The whole tour. I should write a book just on the tour guide business because it's fucking wild, man. Like there's rules and shit you're supposed to follow, which most people do, but every once in a while you get someone who's going to be a dick. And I'm fucking dressed as a pirate. I'm carrying a sword. I'm pretty much going to own the moment. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the ghost people just stare at me like, whoa, that looks like fucking fun as we go by. And they're sitting there hearing about, fucking ghost in some bedroom, So again, take the ghost tour when you come to New Orleans. That's fine. You're going to have fun. But that's what I'm up against. The ghost tours are so world famous and we're a haunted city. What people don't understand is that the fucking pirate influence is so much more important to everything New Orleans. But you know what? Let's go stand on the street corner and fucking look at nothing.
You slide up. Is it poor form? Can you slide up some cards as you're going by the ghost people?
No, man. We're gonna live and die in our own way, and we would never do that. Yeah,
right.
They're out there working just as hard as anybody else.
Jason, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame announced. Rage in. Rage is in. Soundgarden is not in. I thought that was a flip of a coin. I'm good with it. I think Soundgarden will eventually get in, but Iron Maiden didn't make it in again. And if that's the one thing that kind of got like my blood bubbling today, the fact that fucking Iron Maiden didn't get in, I've already bitched and moaned about it. So I'm kind of like over it, but why? Judas Priest is in, even though I think they got one of those bullshit things like
little side deals.
Some kind of like Randy Rhoads got in, because of Tom Morello. I don't know how LL Cool J is in. Is he in there as a regular Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, or is he in there because he's, got two L's in his name?
It feels very much like there's the adult table and the kids table, and like Randy Rhoads is at the kids table at the Rock and Roll. You know what I mean? It feels very much like that.
So I think maybe Judas Priest maybe got in that way. I don't know. But George Michael got in with the most votes from the fans. And then, he made it in. Willie Nelson made it in on his first nomination. Kate Bush got in somehow, which is such bullshit. Such bullshit. It doesn't mean that it's not that I don't like her. It's absolute bullshit. Nobody can tell me another Kate Bush song. No. For God's sake, somebody come at me with one more Kate Bush song. They can't.
You can't. And it's influence. It's everything. It's dumb. It's weird. Sheryl Crow's in. It's like, come on.
You know what? I don't have a problem with that. She's a songwriter.
Right.
I think she's very well respected amongst her peers. I'm okay with Sheryl Crow. I'm good with it. I just I don't even get upset anymore. The thing that really does upset me, and I'm absolutely creased about, is Iron Maiden, who still play around the world in, at minimum, arenas.
Yeah, stadiums.
And still play some stadiums.
Right.
How can they not be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Because you have Black Sabbath. I mean, the way the tree works for me is Black Sabbath is on top. And then right after that, I think it's Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and Zeppelin. I mean, I really do put those three together. And then you got Deep Purple and those other things. But I think right underneath Sabbath is Iron Maiden. Right. How am I so wrong on this?
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with Iron Maiden, because they've got the albums, they got the touring, they've got the street cred, they've got all of it. But, Motley Crue is in. You know what I mean?
Crue is not in.
Or no, Motley Crue is not in. You're right.
Motley Crue is not in.
Def Leppard's in. Okay.
Yeah.
This is where we started falling apart, and we said, like, well, this band got in before this band. Again, I've used this example many times. When you go to the fucking Louvre, one of the biggest, best museums on earth, and you're like, is anyone standing there going, well, I can't believe they fucking put the Venus de Milo in here before the Mona Lisa. Fuck that. You know what I mean? Nobody cares. 10 years down the road, you're just going to be happy to go through the place and go, that's cool. You know what I mean? It's a museum. But we get caught up in that argument all the time. They'll get in. What's interesting about the Rage Soundgarden thing, there's all kinds of little funny fumbling bullshit that goes around getting these people in. I wonder if, like, Soundgarden, like, they said, hey, look, don't put us in this year, because they were still working out the legalities between the widow of Chris Cornell and the band members, they had just got that taken care of a couple of weeks ago. So there's going to be Soundgarden music coming out. So I wonder if they just said, hey, wait until we get this shit ironed out, then put us in. You know what I mean? So it makes it a more touchy-feely, huggy sort of event.
We don't know what goes on behind the scenes.
No,
but,
not at all.
But I'll play into what you just said. The induction ceremony, the guy that is the curator of that is one of the really high ups, maybe the number 3, 4 guy for iHeartRadio, John Sykes.
Mm-hmm.
He's an old MTV guy and stuff like that. The fact that Iron Maiden said, we don't want it, we're not showing up, we're not categorized, we don't blah, blah, we don't want to be put in a box, all of that. This guy's ultimately, I say this guy, John Sykes, this iHeart guy, he's got to put together a television show, put together an award show, you know, right. The Grammys has to be put together. The Academy Awards has to be put together. That's his thing. He's got to put that together. If he's got a band that's flat out saying, I'm not showing up, well, then fuck you. I'm not putting you in.
Right.
That should not play into it. They have done more than enough to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I really do feel the fact that they won't show up for that fucking TV show, that is a major strike against them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, because you have to put that show together. That show has to be interesting. That's why you see certain layers, you know, okay, Rage Against the Machine's in. That's our hard, heavy rock this year. Okay, we're done. We're good. We got it. We got our Pop-Tart, you know, chick, Sheryl Crow, George Michael, pop artist. Okay, we got that covered. We got our country guy, old Willie's in here. Let's get him in before he croaks. You know, he's 90. Good. It's like they check the boxes. Okay, we got to get one of these, one of these, one of these, one of these. Okay, we got a good show. It feels that way, you know. It's whatever it ends up being. And that's okay.
Yeah. When I think about it, it makes me sick. If I don't think about it, then okay, boom. I'm not going to lose any sleep. I'm going to sleep just fine tonight. But it's amazing that after all these years, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame still gets me upset. It still gets me upset, even when, okay, good, Rage. Okay, great. I kind of had an idea. I mean, Tom Morello seems to be really, really involved these days. And I know he's back he's in that back room with the nerds. And he's the only reason, because of his influence, he's the guy that got Randy Rhoads, you know, right, for them to even talk about him. So, you know, you got a bunch of guys back there that fucking worship Roxy music. And then you got Tom Morello. So, what, Vu? Come here.
What the hell? Is that a bark?
Well, yeah, that's about the best. Come here, Vu. Come say hi to everybody on the podcast.
Man, holy shit. What's wrong with your dog, dude?
Oh, yeah. No, she hasn't had a full bark in over. Yeah, she's got to have. Actually, I'm not upset about it. I'm not upset about having a three-quarter bark.
Holy shit.
I got to let her out.
I got you.
Hang on. We don't got to go much further on this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing. I'm almost sick of hearing myself talk about it, to be honest with you. It's, and I said again this morning, come on, just Garth Brooks. I will be upset if Garth Brooks is not nominated next year. Dolly, Willie, and I get it. You still got to take care of some of these. There's these older guys, you know, you might need to go back and get fucking, you know, I don't know.
Merle Haggard
and Tubbs, somebody with the last name of Tubbs. You have to get him in there, but Garth Brooks is a fucking rock star, man. Right. You know, put him in.
No, it's fine. I mean, you know, whatever. I'll watch the Rage Against the Machine induction. I'll be like, okay, cool. I'll see what they do with George Michael. That'll be interesting, you know. But yeah, whatever. Who gives a shit? Rod, I want to bring something up from last episode. We talked about Stained. And we talked about Greta Van Fleet and how you know their new song came out, which is a great song, but yet it's not going to get much radio airplay, and it's barely getting any radio airplay around the country. I checked this morning, nobody's playing that song really, and they're not gonna. And you brought up how, you know, maybe Greta Van Fleet don't give a shit because they can make enough money through touring and TikTok and all the other shit and downloads and vinyl sales and all that merchandise, that's good enough for them. Right. That was kind of the gist of your comment. And I'm like, yeah, that maybe some bands don't need to be on the radio to, you know, they don't care. They got their own thing going on and they don't have to worry about it. Right.
Right.
So a guy who actually listens to the podcast, chimes in occasionally, is Richard Lundy. He said, hey, look, there's a lot of good rock bands putting out good music. but y'all will never play them unless they got $1 million backing them. He's talking about you and I on our radio stations, right?
Yeah.
A perfect example is Lit Band, the band Lit, their last CD was ridiculous, yet no airplay. That's why bands like Greta Van Fleet do what they do, and they are happy. Now, he's got some interesting points in there. I didn't hear the last Lit album, so I couldn't speak on that. His point about, hey, some bands just want to do that. I'm with you. I think there's plenty of bands who don't give a shit about radio. But paying us millions of dollars, that doesn't happen. Okay, I want to make it clear, and you've made it clear many times on this podcast that
We have.
bands don't pay us anything. If anything else, we the radio stations, when you play it, those every time it's played, it's called a spin. Those spins get added up, and then quarterly, radio writes checks to the artists who play on the radio. So it's actually backwards. We don't pay, bands don't pay us to get on the radio. All right, they just don't. It's not how it works. It's record labels who say, hey, here's a band we're pushing right now. Here's our new song. Do you like it or not? Does it fit your radio station or not? They talk to Radio Wizard in Houston. They talk to me, and they talk to program directors all around the country. And we go, yeah, that fits our station. We'll play it. Or no, that doesn't fit what we're trying to accomplish with our station, so we won't play it. That's pretty much how the game works.
So with a band like Lit, I'm just going to guess because I don't know. I really don't know. But I'm guessing that Lit does not have any backing from a major record label.
That's my guess because I didn't hear about it.
I'm guessing that Lit put out an album and they have a certain amount of fans and they put something out and their fans bought it and this guy likes it. But it's Lit and their fucking street team working it, meaning if you do have major label backing, and let's say they were on RCA back in the day, RCA has got some juice and they have a team of salespeople, record people that will go out and they will go out and promote it and push a guy like Jason and push a guy like the Radio Wizard. Hey man, we got this. This is really good, man. You should take a listen. You should take a listen. Lit's not at that level where they have people working for them. So Lit is just like the other millions of bands that are floating around on YouTube right now. The difference is they did have a hit and there's some name recognition there. But other than that, they're no better off than fucking Richard Cheese that's, putting out his own CDs and other artists. So it's on them. I just don't think they have a record deal.
No.
And you don't have to have a record deal, but it's just, how do you expect us to go and find all this stuff? That's what having a major label on your side will do. They will go out and they've got salespeople to go out and push it and get it in front of people and get it out there and do the different things that need to be done for promoting the new album. It's on Lit to promote it themselves. And man, let me tell you, those songs better be fucking amazing, if they're going to get played.
Yeah. Well,
I know there's just a lot of bands like that. Stabbing Westward just played here. Remember them?
Oh yeah. What do I have to do? And hits.
He had a couple really, really great songs, and the singer's dealing with some personal things. He had some health issues and stuff. And they're putting out their own stuff right now. And they're working on trying to do some sort of a comeback type thing. And it's just, there's a million of those out there right now. There's a million of those. Most bands, I didn't even know Crazy Town was still together until I saw the fucking lead singer and the guitar player get into a fight on TMZ last week. It's like, I imagine those guys are probably still trying to bang out new music, but yeah, we don't accept money and songs, and Lit does not have to pay to be on the air.
Now, the problem you have, though, with like a band like Lit, maybe the album is good. I don't know. But, there's a lot of noise. So what happens is these record labels, they get access to us, the program directors and other people in the industry. Lit doesn't have that person ringing my phone, sending me emails. Hey, they just don't have the people to help. That takes a lot of people to put these things together and get in front of people. You got to let me know what's out there, and then I'll go listen to it. And then I listen, don't just start emailing me links to fucking songs. Okay. That's not really going to help me either. Like there's not enough time in the day to listen to all the music that's out there. You just don't have time. So that's why these major labels get shit in front of you. Now, occasionally there's these weird little bands that'll get a weird song that sneaks through, like the band Giovanni and the Hired Guns. you know, that song they had out last summer, Ramona Ayala or whatever it's called. Fucking
Mhm.
song came out of nowhere. I mean, yeah, they're on a label, but it took forever and ever and ever. And it just sort of inched its way up. And then people started taking notice of it. And then a label got involved more and then they pushed it out. That is such a rare occurrence, you know, and it kind of came out of Texas because it's a Texas band, I believe. So
but it shows you that it still can happen. You know, like it still can happen for a band, and a band that can still, a rock band, you know, can still be discovered. And, you know, you don't have to be on American Idol. You can still put stuff out there and try to get noticed. It's just, you know, the music industry has never been easy. You know, it's always been incredibly hard. And for every band that makes it, there's a million that don't, and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed.
No, not really. I think what's good about it now, though, like say you've got a band you love from the, you know, early 90s that have just not had the success. They haven't been back on the radio, like Lit for this guy, right? He likes the band. Great. Well, they can keep putting out albums every few years, and their fan base, who's probably connected to them through Facebook or whatever, if it pops up on Facebook, you're like, oh shit, they got a new album out. Cool. Boom. Okay, maybe you buy it. Maybe you download a couple songs. A band could probably sustain a life with that, with touring and hitting the you know, the small sheds and the small clubs around the country. You could do it. You could make money doing that. You know, you could. I don't know if I'd want to do it, but hey, if you want to do it that way, you can bang it out. You totally.
Most of those hair metal bands are still playing, still putting stuff out. Don't have a record deal. They're on the Monsters of Rock cruise, Faster Pussycat and fucking Bang Tango and Tora Tora and whatever, you know, Steel Heart. Anybody that had one song, you know, some hair metal song, they're still playing. And they're probably still recording new stuff, you know? I mean, all the way up until Dokken, you know, they're probably still putting music out there. George Lynch is always putting shit out, you know? It doesn't mean that it needs to be on the radio. It's just they built a fan base back in the day, and you know what? They still go out, and they tour, and they still put shit out for their fans.
And I think it's great.
That's kind of where Lit's at. And you know, Lit, they had a couple of hits, so they probably can make a living. You know, like I don't know if they have day jobs.
Well, if you've got that hit, you know, that's going to get thrown into a movie or TV show every once in a while. That's where you make your bank. That can carry you along for a while. You go do some shows, you tour, you got your merch. You know what? If you build enough fan base and you work, I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure they're fine. But that's still kind of rare too, to even get to that level of success. You know, it's not easy.
Most of the guys that we all fell into the trappings of kind of somewhat worshiping back in the day, these guys are not going to be on Cribs. They're just not. No. You know, there's, of course, you know, you mentioned Def Leppard and, you know, everybody knows Bon Jovi's like so insanely rich. He wants to buy a football team rich. He's, you know, he's in there in that billionaire area. But man, it's just these guys that we looked up to, you go and look at them and, you know, I don't know how, if you wrote some songs and you own the publishing of them and that sort of thing. But, you know, me as the drummer of my band, I thank God every day we didn't get signed and I didn't go that direction, because I'd be on that fucking Monsters of Rock cruise playing my one song and, you know, and then going back to my mom's basement.
Yeah. Yeah. No, probably. You're right. You're right.
I thank God that I quit when I did, and I didn't go out to Los Angeles. And, you know, my friend Mark hates when I talk like that. I'm like, I'm so glad we didn't get signed by a record label. I just, because it worked out, you know, like I wouldn't be where I am. And thank God I got out when I did. But that's not to say that we were too late. Nirvana already hit. We weren't doing that. It wasn't going to happen for us. You know, I was just going to go out to LA and struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean but I just want to make sure we made it clear that we're not getting checks written to us.
Yes.
To play music. It's just, in fact, it's quite illegal nowadays after, what's his name? Spitzer in New York years ago, signed all those rules and stuff. And you got to sign so much paperwork when you work in radio. Ugh, it's gross. It's gross. It's not like the old days when they bring in blow and whores and Corvettes and you can play music, man. I'm like, we missed it by about 10 years, man. We hear stories all the time. Yeah, man, you want to play this song? Nah, it's a piece of shit. Open up a briefcase. There's just a big.
Let's go for a ride.
Let's go for a ride. Oh, dude. Next thing you know, you're spinning it like 90 times. That's how you got songs on the radio back in the day, man. You can't do that
You
anymore.
go for a ride, you come in with a brand new Warner Brothers jacket, and then all of a sudden the song's being played on the air. Okay.
It's amazing how it used to work. Well, Aerosmith was able to do it the old school way. I'm sure Blow was involved, though.
Well, Blow, Jesus Christ, everything was involved. I mean, they called those two the Toxic Twins for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, Aerosmith is such a unique story with them. I really cannot put anybody in the same category. There's been bands that have like gone into a lull and had a comeback. Nothing to the magnitude of Aerosmith. They were fucking done. They were completely donezo. They were a huge band in the 70s, and then boom, drugs took over. Perry leaves the band. They put out Rock in a Hard Place. Then they put out the shittiest record ever, Done with Mirrors. And then 1987 hits, and they just agree that, okay, number one, we got to get cleaned up. Number two, we got to have somebody help write some songs for us, okay? Because we're just these 70s fucking fossil guys, man. We need Desmond Child. We need this. We need this. And then Permanent Vacation hits in 1987. And it's the biggest fucking comeback in the history of rock. Can you even think of somebody that comes close?
Not really.
You look at bands, people don't realize that back in the day, like Kiss, their first 3 albums, nothing was happening. Nothing was happening with Kiss. As a matter of fact, they might have broken up had they not put out that Alive record. That's what radio stations grabbed it, and they started playing the live version of probably Rock and Roll All Night. And then all of a sudden it happened for them.
Right.
Bruce Springsteen put out a couple of albums. Not a whole lot was happening until Born to Run hits. But Aerosmith was big. And then they went away, meaning they just were falling apart. And then they had the biggest comeback ever.
Well, part of the comeback was the Run DMC thing with Walk This Way.
Yes.
That's what really twisted them in. And what was interesting about that is that neither parties wanted to do it. Aerosmith was like, are you fucking nuts? Absolutely not. And the guys in Run DMC were like, are you fucking nuts? Absolutely not. Neither party wanted to do it. I believe it was Rick Rubin that put it together, right?
It was.
He had to, work his sage magic and do all that shit and guru stuff and get them together and do it. And then it just blew up both of their careers. And that's where their train started to roll.
You didn't.
Not to use it. Yeah.
You didn't.
You're not crying, are you? So, hey, I want to bring this up before we dive into our top 5 favorite Aerosmith tunes. We've talked often about a biopic, what band would make it. I don't think we ever mentioned Aerosmith. Aerosmith is ripe for the picking. There is so much shit, so much drama, so much everything with it. And the comeback, man, it would be like theirs would be different because you would have that. We started out as kids in Boston playing in gymnasiums, and then we blew up to the top, and then we fucked it up, and then we fell apart, and then we came back, and the rap thing with the Run DMC, it could be a fucking great story.
Some of the stuff that's coming out right now, and specifically with Steven Tyler and having that fucking 14-year-old girlfriend and, going all fucking Jerry Lee Lewis back in the day.
Yep. That's right.
People have receipts, and I touched upon it briefly on the air. I said, man, your heroes in the fucking 70s got away with some shit. Jerry Lee Lewis wasn't the only fucking creep out there. I mean, even Elvis, the Priscilla thing, you go look at the ages when they met.
Yep.
Go look at the ages when he met her. I'm not saying they did anything, and apparently they waited and all this bullshit. I don't believe it.
Sure they did.
We have a history of just kind of like skirting these things because they're our heroes. But Jimmy Page, those guys did some fucked up shit back in the day, and he had a little fucking baby girlfriend. And there they are getting the Medal of Freedom from, President Obama.
I know, it's fucked up.
So those guys did some fucked up shit, man. They're jamming a fish in a chick. So anyways,
the mud shark.
There's a story that Steven Tyler had a girlfriend, and the parents signed her over to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he admits this. He said, it's not like you think. The parents signed her over. He was her guardian, and boyfriend. Fucking weird. So
the 70s were a little different, man. People were getting married much younger back then.
I know, but now people want answers. And I we're in that. And I'm not even chalking this up to cancel culture. I just think people are finding out about this guy that they've always known. I mean, at one point he was a judge on American Idol. That's American.
Everybody's living room, man. Yeah.
So
that's the thing.
What do you mean he had a 14-year-old girlfriend? And what do you mean is the parents signed her over to him? That stuff is happening right now. Steven Tyler is dealing with that right now.
Yeah,
he's not the only one. I mean, what the fuck was going on with Michael Jackson? Again,
right.
It's a whole nother discussion. I don't know if that would stop the Aerosmith biopic from moving forward.
Yeah,
I don't know. It didn't stop Michael Jackson stories from being made. I don't know. But my top two contenders, I think, would be, because we know that there's going to be a Dumb Kiss movie being made for Netflix. So that's already out of it. That's out of the question. It's not going to be a big theatrical release. Aerosmith, and I really think the front runner has to be Fleetwood Mac. Yeah, because of Daisy Jones, because of the success of that. And, it's not like that was on the tip of everybody's tongue, but it was so good that I think I look at a guy like Alex on my show who watched Daisy Jones because his girlfriend got him to watch it. And then he realized how much he got into it. And then he's seeing the parallels. He's like, wow, I didn't know all this stuff about Fleetwood Mac. It's like, wow, did this really happen? They really stood up there and they sang songs about each other and breaking up. And this guy forced her to sing this and him to sing this. Yep. I said, yeah. I said, that's a fucking movie. He's like, yes, I want that to be a movie.
Yeah, I think Fleetwood Mac would be great.
I really do think that's the movie.
What if you did a thing? And again, we're getting off in the fucking weeds again, but our podcast. What if you did a thing where because there's a lot of interconnected shit in that 70s vibe right there. You had the Eagles, you had Fleetwood Mac, and there was you could almost do a movie on that whole scene because the Eagles were a fucking disaster as well in a different way. Fleetwood Mac, you could almost go and put all this shit together and have it all culminate to some big festival, actually, it'd be kind of a cool fucking movie. And you'd almost have to fake it in a way as the US Festival in '83. That's where Van Halen played. It was 100,000 people, and it was put on by Steve Wozniak from Apple or whatever the fuck it was. You could almost make a fake one of that, like they do with Daisy Jones and the Six, and have all these bands and tell their stories about getting to this final concert and all the conflict and all the bullshit. Because they all have their fucking. Every day you go to work is a fucking chore. I'm not saying you specifically. I'm saying in general, anybody. There's always drama. There's that asshole that fucking cooks fish for lunch in the microwave. There's, the guy that always forgets his tools on the job or whatever the case may be. Bands are even worse because you've got all these creative fucking people, a lot of egos involved, and drugs and booze. Every band is fucked up in a lot of different ways. It's just the way it is. Fleetwood Mac would be cool.
I just, to get the sign off of the bands, then the business aspect of it and the music, and it's hard enough just to get one band to get on the same page, and then you're trying to bring together, let's just say you even focused on 4 bands. What a fucking nightmare to try to get all those camps to agree to all of this stuff. Now you're doing something that's going to be unauthorized, and you're not going to get anybody. Don Henley's going to say fuck you because we deserve our own movie, and because believe me, he would be a dick. So you're not going to get people signing off on that shit. They just won't. They won't.
Right. No, I agree, but it'd be kind of a neat thing to see happen. If you can't put all these, if you can't do a one-off, but you're right. There's so much fucking bullshit, all the rights to all the music and all, and then of course, what are they going to want to show? They want to show Stevie Nicks doing blow for an hour and a half of the movie. Is she going to want that?
Right out of dudes' assholes, I think.
Yeah.
There's great stories about her.
What a great girl. I like her.
And fanny holes. Dude, I love it.
That's gross. So let's never forget who's listening to this podcast or who potentially will listen to this podcast. Okay.
You know what? Hot take. Christine McVie was hotter. Or Christy McVie, whatever. She was hotter. There was something about her. There was something always hotter. Was she English? Was she milfy? She was always milfy. There's something I thought she was hotter than Stevie Nicks.
Yeah, Stevie Nicks was the showboat and just all up front constantly, all the time with the scarves and dancing, twirling around and shit, which was fine. It was great for the band. It was cool and she did it. But yeah, Christy McVie was over there just behind the fucking keyboard, just banging away.
Yeah, I think that's where I'd go first.
Yeah, well, you know that you don't want to go Stevie. Oof. Tie a fucking board to your back.
Remember who's listening.
Jesus. I wish I wouldn't have known that piece of information.
All right.
Take the pirate tour. All right, let's do our fucking top 5 Aerosmith. There's our commercial. Piratesofthequarter.com. Thanks for joining us in New Orleans.
So do you agree that there's 2 Aerosmiths? There's Aerosmith 70s, and then there's Aerosmith dude looks like a lady moving forward, right?
Yeah, permanent vacation forward. In fact, what I was going to bring up is the fact that I didn't know. I came into Aerosmith and I was the second half Aerosmith guy. I had to go back and listen to the older shit later. Like I had heard Dream On and that kind of shit, but
yeah,
that was all like old to me. The new Aerosmith was cool. I bought Permanent Vacation on cassette. Had it on a cassette when it came out in 87, I believe. Yeah, I bought it. It was fucking awesome. I loved that album. But that was my Aerosmith, you know, boom. I went from there. And then I had to go backwards in time.
The videos, the
Alicia
daughter
and
Alicia Silverstone and their, yes. Yeah, that Aerosmith was silly to me.
Yeah, dude looks like a lady was not one of my favorite songs. I think part of the problem with that is we've talked about this before is that, classic rock, I played that song a trillion fucking times. Plus Janie's Got a Gun. I hated those songs. I never liked them. Never liked that. But
that version of Aerosmith that was really our Aerosmith. That's right. Our band then, yeah. It's 87. I'm graduating high school. It's the biggest album. And I think it's silly. I find Dude Looks Like a Lady and Love in an Elevator. I find those like goofball songs.
They are.
It brought them because of MTV and all of that stuff. And it made them so unbelievably huge. And I went to go see them on those tours, that and Pump. But then I started to get into some of the older stuff. And my sister kind of introduced me to them too, because that's going to play into my top 5 list. Because I'm gonna have like a weirdo song on there. But yeah, everything that I love about Aerosmith, because I was in a band, Dan and Scott are a little bit older than me, and they worshipped, and that influenced the sound of our band back in the day. And that's how I started to get into them, because they were so into them. So I had to do this deep dive because I'm like, what are you guys going for here? And then boom, I started listening to a ton of Aerosmith, and never my favorite band, but always, they were called like the poor man's Rolling Stones, and they're a great American band. They're one of our greatest American bands of all time.
Absolutely.
Top 5 American band of all time. Right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, Aerosmith is absolutely. And tell you what, you want to see a great live band, dude, I've seen them like 4 or 5 times over these. They do not disappoint live. Holy shit, are they good?
In no particular order: Beach Boys, Metallica, Eagles, Aerosmith, and then you take the 5th one. I don't care, but I think those 4.
I mean, you got to put Fleetwood Mac in there, right? American band. I mean, these are not my favorite bands. These are American bands. I'd say they're, Kiss has got the, Kiss is an American band. There doesn't get more American over the top than that, Right. So I don't know, but the importance of Aerosmith, there's just no question at all that they are absolute royalty when it comes to American rock bands. Right. Absolutely.
Top 5. You spent a lot of years in classic rock, so I imagine you got burned out on some of this stuff.
I did. I got burned out on a lot of it, man. It's like, God damn it. Really Loving an Elevator? Seriously? It's goofy. Dude Looks Like a Lady. You're right. It always was goofy to me. I'm like, really? The Dude Looks Like a Lady? That's what we came up with? Oof.
I mean, there's no doubt that Steven Tyler is clever, but his lyrics, they're kind of dad jokey to me. Like the song Pink and stuff.
That's terrible.
Don't get me. He's a wordsmith, and he puts things together, but it's almost embarrassingly dad bad to me. Some of the stuff the words that he puts together. And I mean, Joe Perry is a god.
Yeah.
And Tyler is one of the greatest frontmen of all time. But there is something hokey about the second half of their career to me.
Yeah, a lot of it was weird. And, this is what, and I'm not comparing the two, of course, but like, that's what got Nickelback into trouble. Chad Kroeger, the first album, he would write like the heavy song, he'd write the cool ballad, the hit, and then he'd have that goofy song. And occasionally those would come across on the radio, Rockstar is a goofy song, right?
Yep.
And they kept doing that formula, and the goofy songs, people were like, well, fuck you. It's dad jokey. And actually Aerosmith got away with it because it was before all that. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm a sucker for all their later stuff, though. I like all the hits, man. I like that shit. I like that shit.
Well, I think our lists are going to be very, very different. So can't wait to hear what you got here.
I'll go first. Top 5 favorite Aerosmith songs. Actually, I go way old school, back to 1977 from their Draw the Line album, Kings and Queens.
Fucking great song. And
I don't know why, but and that doesn't get radio airplay, but I just discovered it when I was doing a deep dive on Aerosmith years ago, and just fell in love with that too, man. Kings and Queens, awesome fucking song. You got to go to 1989 at number 4 from their Pump album. What It Takes was massive. I was in 11th grade chugging beers from a keg, and that album was cranked up. So again, music makes memories. So
yeah,
that's
what song?
What It Takes.
What It Takes.
What It Takes, very ballady-ish, and it just kind of rolls and rolls and rolls. Good song. Number 5, 4, 3. Number 3 from Get a Grip, 1993. And don't we forget to bring up 1993. Get a Grip, the song Crying. I know, cheese, fucking, but man, is it a hit. It's a great song. And the video, how do you go wrong? I mean, 93, I'm 22. And Alicia Silverstone and Liv Tyler running around in the video. I think I'm okay with it. I wasn't mad about that. That was number 3. Number 2, I go old school, Toys in the Attic, Sweet Emotion. I still dig that tune, man. There's something very cool the way it starts off real slow and just kind of builds. And there's something very cool about that. I think what was used in, it's been used in a lot of movies.
So it's definitely in Dazed and Confused.
Dazed and Confused. Yeah. That was
so it's 100% in there. And it's also in Armageddon when they're training and they go into the pool.
Oh yeah.
And you got them, so they're learning how to the floating and stuff. So they're here at Johnson Space Center and they're in the pool. And I think Sweet Emotion is playing. Sonically, it's a fucking brilliant song.
That's beautiful.
It's just the sonics of it. It's a perfect song.
And you got to think about the year 75. It sounds great for 1975. And then number 1, my favorite song, at least today, Living on the Edge from Get a Grip, 1993. I was always into that drum section near the end where it just drops down. It's just like, doom, doom, doom. Apparently, through my extensive research on this podcast, Steven Tyler confessed to stealing the drum from his high school. It was a big bass drum from his high school that he had stolen years ago. And he was like, well, let's use this. And it's just a great sound. Yeah, it's a great fucking sound on that big drum. So yeah. See, I did go. A lot of them were I had 3 of my 5 were the second wave of Aerosmith.
Phase 2. I wrote down Living on an Edge, not in my top 5. That is my favorite. So it was your number 1. That's my favorite Phase 2 Aerosmith song.
It feels like it's got a 70s. They feel like they threw back on that one because the way he's screaming and shit in it and stuff.
There's nothing hokey. There's nothing goofy about it. It's just a really, really good song.
Yeah.
Not good enough to be in my top 5, but definitely from their MTV era moving forward to present, I think that's the best thing that they wrote for sure. So when I got into my sister comes up all the time on this podcast and how that 3-year difference was a huge difference musically. And I think with her Columbia Records and Tapes or whatever, she got Aerosmith, Rockin' a Hard Place, which was not a good time for Aerosmith. Joe Perry is not in the band. There's a guy in the band that Joe Perry thanks in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony, thanks him for, filling in and quitting or doing whatever. Somehow how Tyler and Perry got back together. But from that album, which was a horrible album, the only thing worse is Done with Mirrors after that. But there's a song on there called When the Lightning Strikes. And that was my introduction to Aerosmith. You know, I'm sure classic rock was playing some stuff and Dream On was on. And I'm sure I heard of Aerosmith, but listening to a song over and over again, When the Lightning Strikes off of that album, it's amazing. And it's bad because there's no Joe Perry on it. So that's my number 5. My number 4 is Toys in the Attic, the title track.
Really?
I absolutely love Toys in the Attic. And the chanting, the call and the response and all of that. And I think Joe Perry just fucking shreds on that. So that is my number 4. My number 3 is Sweet Emotion.
Yeah.
Again, for everything that you said and that I said, I think that song, just the sound of it, I don't think it sounds old. I don't think it sounds like an old song. It's really weird to me. And the one thing that is different about that song is Tyler doesn't go up to that high register in Sweet Emotion. He just sings it.
Yep.
Normally he likes to flex and show you where he can do and doing all that shit. And he doesn't do that on that song. And don't get me wrong, I like when Tyler does that. I like him stretching his voice. He's got an amazing voice. But he doesn't do it on that song. And I think that's one of the reasons why I really like it too, because it sounds different. Sweet Emotion, then Kings and Queens in at 2 from Draw the Line, and my number 1 all-time favorite, which they still do live every show, Lord of the Thighs.
Yeah.
My absolute favorite Aerosmith song, 1974 from Get Your Wings. Lord of the Thighs is just the fucking groove of that song. I don't know that it was released as a single, but I think they play it every live show. I think it's a staple in their live set. Fun fact, The Breeders, Cannonball. I know you know that song.
Yeah, play it.
The B-side is a cover of Lord of the Flies.
No way. Oh, I would dig that.
I'm talking about a real B-side to the 45.
Right. Old school.
Yeah, they did it. They did a cover of it. So they do a pretty good cover of that song. Yeah, back in the day.
Holy shit. See, Aerosmith had the whole package though. When you think about it, man, they had all of it, man. And then they had the great logo, that the wings and shit and the A and stuff. And I mean, they just had the whole thing. What I wanted to bring up was their second phase. They were one of those bands that kind of slid through and was still getting a lot of airplay, mostly because of MTV. Get a Grip was 93. What the fuck was going on in 1993? What we've talked about to death on this podcast is grunge. 91 gets going, but there were still some of those bands like Van Halen had an album that was out, still being played on the radio. Their For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge album came out, I believe, in 91, maybe. This was being played. So this wasn't the end game. You know what I mean? The Aerosmith was still getting through, but then after that, I think that was it. After Get a Grip, I think that was kind of where that fell off for them as far as radio airplay.
They had achieved a level that they could just stay there. They were going to play arenas moving forward after the success, Permanent Vacation, Pump, and what you said, Get a Grip.
Yeah.
Then that solidified. They don't have to do anything else.
No,
they're going to play arenas forever.
Yep.
That was it. They didn't need. That's it. They had already done enough. Their catalog was just stupid. And they were already one of the great American rock bands of all time. The greatest comeback ever, because it's just the best comeback ever. I mean, I know that people are going to say, well, what do you think about, the transition from Roth to Sammy Hagar? It wasn't a comeback. It was a different thing. It was a different thing. It was a different singer. And that needs to be said about Aerosmith, except for right now with Joey Kramer being out, that band has stayed together. I talked about, Joe Perry left. The Joe Perry project stuff I couldn't get into.
No,
I did pick a song from Rockin' a Hard Place, but think about that original lineup. That's everybody in the band. They're all original members.
They figured it out somehow.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insanity that, from the bass player to the rhythm guitar player to the main guitar guy, everybody, they're all original players.
They played Jazz Fest a few years ago, and my son was with us, and I said, dude, you're about to see a clinic on how fucking rock and roll is done. I said, you're about to see a goddamn clinic. He's like, what do you mean? I go, just watch. I go, just fucking watch how unbelievably cool these guys are. It's hard to, again, I don't love Aerosmith, but there was a moment in time, and I think, I don't know if it was Dream On. I don't know. He starts off with a piano. I forget which song it was. They bring out this huge white piano way to the front of the stage, and Tyler's sitting down playing it, and he's singing, and then it kicks in, and fucking Joe Perry comes walking out, steps up on top of the fucking piano, and just shreds the solo, hair blowing, fucking gold chains and scarves, and I'm just sitting there going, that is about as cool as you're ever gonna fucking see it done right there. It was so fucking cool.
Slash, after Slash gets done with November Rain, and he walks up and steps on the piano, when that song's over, he should go to the side of the stage and fucking make out a check to Joe Perry and mail it to him. Every time he steps on top of that piano, he should send a check to fucking Joe Perry.
You're right. I never thought of that. You're right. But I mean,
100%. And he loves Joe Perry. He worships Joe Perry. Like I said, I think the Rocks album, which is why we're doing this, we're celebrating 40 some years of the Rocks album. 1976, they released Rocks. So 47 years ago today. Yeah. And I know that I've heard Slash say that was one of his formative albums. So they just influenced everybody. They influenced everybody.
Yeah, and one of my favorite Saturday Night Live moments of all time was the Wayne's World, and they worshipped Aerosmith. Aerosmith showed up, and you probably remember seeing it, and Tom Hanks was on that episode, and he was their roadie, and he's setting up, and the whole band ends up in the basement with Wayne and Garth. And I just remember watching it that night going, holy fuck, this is unbelievable. Because that's when Wayne's World were at their peak powers. Aerosmith was back. It was like the coolest shit that ever happened.
Tom Hanks is the roadie. He gets on the mic and he's like, check, sibilance, 1, 2.
It's brilliant.
He says, sibilance. He says it into the mic. It's the funniest fucking thing ever.
It's one of the great all-time moments on Saturday Night Live, because you're like, if you're a Wayne's World fan, you wanted that to show up every week. And when it did, you were excited, but you knew they always wanted Aerosmith. When Aerosmith walked down those fucking steps in that shitty basement, you're just like, oh. Like you felt it. You felt it for those guys. You're like, no way. So yeah, Aerosmith, again, not my favorite band, but a clinic when they're on stage. And I'm hoping they pull it off on this tour. I hope it really goes well for them, because I want to see them go out big, They're playing
Dallas. They're playing Austin. They're playing San Antonio.
Jesus.
They're not
play Houston.
They're not playing Houston.
How?
I don't know. Their drummer is from Houston. The guy that's filling in, the drum tech, he's from Houston. Now, again, they're not going to play it because of him. They're not going to just come here, but they're not playing here. It's infuriating to me, because I do want to see him one last time. Steven Tyler is fucking 75 years old. 75 can still fucking sing his ass off, and still can move around. Just the elephant in the room right now. Their Stairway to Heaven is Dream On. Neither one of us had it in the top 5. It's a fucking amazing song.
It's great.
It's an amazing song.
It's great.
Why is it not on either one of our top 5 lists?
Dude, I worked classic rock for many, 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 many years. And it's one of those things. It's just, I cannot, it's just been beaten into my DNA. And I'm like, I can't do it. It's like eating a whole bag of cookies. You don't want to eat those fucking favorite cookies after a while,
Maybe my favorite top 5 list in the history of this podcast was best closing songs in a movie. And the one that we both missed was Miracle, the Miracle on Ice movie.
Yeah.
And the closing credits where they show the guy and who played him in the movie. And they're playing Dream On in the closing credits. And it's one of the best fucking closers ever. And neither one of us had it on our list.
No, why would we? Dope.
And it just still, I didn't put it in my top 5.
Still
it's an amazing song. It's Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah.
It's America's Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah, it's a good one. That is true. That is, I would agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We should really do a top 5. Maybe we have. I'll have to go back and check our notes, but a top 5 frontmen. I don't know if we've done that one. You know what I mean? A top 5 frontmen of all time would be a beating because it would be a 4-hour podcast.
You got to ask Jordan Welch in the machine. He'll know.
Yeah, we have to dig his spreadsheets out, I guess, and get all that straightened out. But anyway, yeah, no, that was good. I'm going to spend some time listening to some Aerosmith this week for sure. Now that's what's great about this.
I wrote down Angel, crying, amazing. Don't want to miss a thing. One song.
Yeah, but I do like Angel. I always like that song. That was always cool. But you're right; they're all basically the same.
It's one song. It's one song to me.
You gotta have the ballad, but they were still playing the formula. They're still doing the formula. You gotta have the ballad. You gotta have the song where the chicks are gonna show up to the concert, and the dudes show up, and everybody makes a ton of money. So they were still following the game. Rod, I think we wrap this thing up, man. Any final thoughts?
Yes. If anybody is still listening, my gift to you on my final thoughts is Google Steven Tyler's feet.
Oh, no, don't do that.
There you go. That's it.
Gross.
That's it. That's it. That's my gift to you today. If you're still listening, Google Steven Tyler's feet.
Okay.
And then maybe you'll understand a little bit better why this is going to be their last fucking tour.
He's got some fucked up feet. They're bad.
Oh,
They're bad.
Oh,
for years.
We could almost do our own version of the reaction videos to the 2 Girls, 1 Cup. Remember that video?
Oh, God, yes.
And then the thing that came out after that was just videotaping people watching what they were looking at.
Yep, the reaction.
I really think we could do a whole series of reactionary videos of people Googling Steven Tyler's feet.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got elephant man feet. They're gross. They're just
that's it.
Gross.
That's it. Help yourself if that's something that you trust me enough to go and do. Al, what you got for final thoughts?
Nothing. I can tell you what I'm not going to do is Google Steven Tyler's feet.
Just do it.
I won't do that.
You want to.
Enough trauma in my life. I don't need any more of that.
You want to get in there on those toes.
Licking in between, getting the goods out of there. Yeah. Hey, check us out on the YouTube channel. We put this up on YouTube every week at Playpants Pod on our social media. Leave your comments about your ghosts and your top 5 favorite Aerosmith tunes. Yeah, I love hearing people chime in because then I'll go, ooh, I didn't remember that when I'll go and listen to it and tell you, man, I've said it 1,000 times, but I love doing this podcast for the sheer fact that it's selfish for me. I get to go discover songs I didn't know about. You know what I mean? It's really fun that way. Like you bring up some and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Still stuck on Harry Styles. I actually heard the song the other day and I was like, God damn it, Rod.
Thanks, Rod.
Like I'm a little bit sweet on old Harry, man. Now he was somebody I would go see. I would like to see him perform. I think Harry'd be great.
Yeah, it's $1 million a ticket. It's $1 million per ticket to go see that fuckface perform live.
Hey, you be nice to Harold. He's got to buy those onesies, suits he wears and shit with the diamonds on them. So anyway, dude. All right. Well, we'll talk for episode 85 somewhere in the future.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Let's go. It's time. Put on Playpants.
Find us wherever you listen to podcasts. See us on our YouTube channel and follow our social media pages at Playpants Pod.